Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this. Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Every time I say it, it's going to suck even more.
May I present to you the cat?
I am Medela. I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing. Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And Caleb.
My power is still on, so we better make this quick.
Yes, it is. That's good. As you can tell, listener, someone's having some power issues.
I don't know what the heck is going on, but the power company hates my house this month. So that's fun.
So this will be interesting if...
if I just vanish in the middle. Actually, listener, you'll know right now already whether or not I'm going to stick through the entire episode, because if I do cut out at any point, I'm pretty sure I'm going to lose my local recording of my audio, which means the only recording of my audio that is going to exist is what Landon is recording through a Discord call. So if my audio quality sounds significantly worse than both Landon and Wes, you know right now that at some point in this episode, my power is going to die. So that's a fun experiment you already know the answer to, but we're living in real time. So how cool is that?
Oh. Cool, I guess. Well, we're going to find out. Oh, man. All right. Well, let's get into this. So let's get to the first topic here. Looks like we got some Google news. The Pixel event has been announced.
Yes, finally, Google has announced that they are going to be having an event on August 20th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And, I mean, we know this is going to be Pixel phones, probably Pixel watches. There are rumors for some new Pixel buds. So, yeah. We have that to look forward to in a month from today as we record.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
And it's interesting because a lot of people were actually expecting it to be on the 13th, a week before, which made sense based on last year's event, which is around the middle of August. This makes it only a few weeks before Apple's event. Well, what we think Apple's event is going to be, which is a week closer and much more interesting, in my opinion, because I mean, pre-orders for anything that gets announced at this event in typical Google fashion will happen right when the event is done, whereas like Apple stuff usually goes on pre-order a couple days later. Same with other companies, but Google usually does it right when the event's done. You can start a pre-order, but devices will start shipping right before the iPhone event in September, or right around that same time, more or less. So it's really interesting how that they did this that close to Apple.
So what you're saying is there's a chance you could look at the Pixel, wait until Apple tells you exactly what the iPhone is going to be, and still pick up a Pixel with a pre-order bonus.
Potentially. Probably
it's
not.
Possible.
But it's possible.
There's a chance.
There is a chance.
That's interesting.
Possible.
That's interesting.
Very. Now, I think the more likely scenario is you could pre-order a Pixel phone, have it in hand, use it for a week, and then Apple announces their thing and be like, oh, actually, I don't love I like the iPhone maybe a little more. I'm going to send this back. And it'll be fine because it's still well within the return policy of any like carrier or Google themselves, So that option's also going to be available. So, it is interesting. But yeah, we have that to look forward to in a month from now. So we will be paying attention to that and bring you any updates that come. I don't think there's going to be anything that comes before that. I mean, you never know. It is Google. Sometimes they just show off the device a week or two or 3 months before, because that's happened.
I mean, it always gets leaked, quote unquote leaked.
Oh, it's been leaked. It's been leaked. I just don't usually talk about that stuff.
Right.
It's just, I remember in the past, like it was literally 3 months before October when Google just like, here's the new Pixels that are coming out. It's like, oh, what? They didn't show any specs. They just showed the devices themselves because we were getting so many leaks. They're like, well, we may as well just produce our own leaks. So here you go. I mean, obviously they can't do it that far in advance now because we're only a month out, but they could still a couple weeks before be like, hey, this is what we're announcing. And it honestly wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's valid.
Man. Well, now I'm thinking I need to look at this more because I'm still sitting on the Pixel 7. So I'm like, geez, do I just wait for this next one?
Yes. Yes. Don't buy a new phone right now, Wes.
Yeah.
My son will be very upset if I do that because he gets my hand-me-downs. So he's been bugging me for it.
He can wait.
Yeah. All right. We'll go ahead and move on there. Question here. Are Android and Chrome OS combining?
You know, there's been rumors of this for a while, and it was even somewhat talked about at Google I.O. last year. I don't think it was talked about in the keynote because, you know, obviously they only talked about AI at the keynote last year. But I can't remember exactly how in depth they actually talked about it, but just this past week, Samir Samat, who is the president of the Android ecosystem at Google, was being interviewed by, the guy's name is Lance Ulanoff, something like that. He works for Tech Radar. And Samir Samat asked this reporter, he's like, so why are you using a MacBook Pro, an Apple Watch, and an iPhone? He's trying to understand, like, why he, you know, what does he like about the whole ecosystem? Why don't you branch out and blah, blah, blah. But then after that, he's like, I asked because we're going to be combining Chrome OS and Android into a single platform, and I am very interested in how people are using their laptops these days and what they're getting done. Oh?
Well,
really?
Oh.
Interesting.
you don't say. Okay.
I mean, like I said, it's kind of been talked about for a long time, and then it was teased a little bit at I.O. last year, but this is like, no, we're doing this. I'm just trying to figure out how we should do that. Like, wait, what? What? When?
Jeez.
I'm glad he's asking. Like,
Yeah,
you know, that's nice.
I am also glad for that as well. It's just, it's really interesting. And the first thing I thought of was, is this a way to get around the idea of them having to sell off Chrome from the DOJ, you know?
Whoa.
It's like, what are we going to sell? We don't have Chrome. What are you talking about? What's Chrome?
What do
We
you
don't
mean?
have that.
What's Chrome? You can't sell something that doesn't exist. Actually, maybe it might be them trying to hedge, like, all right, well, so maybe we have to sell the browser, but you can't make us sell this OS. It's not Chrome. It's Android.
Yeah.
See? Totally. Always has been. Don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, what Chrome? I don't know. No, I mean, it does make sense. Like I've said, like this has been rumored, and there's been different code names behind this for probably at least 5 or 6 years at this point. I think the main reason to do something like this is to have one base operating system that you develop off of, and it's kind of similar to what Apple has done. iOS was originally based off the Mac OS, well, OS 10 at the time.
Yeah.
Very loosely based off that, but it was based off that.
It used the same kernel.
Yeah. And that's kind of the idea I see happening here. And also the idea they want to have something to compete with what Samsung does with their DeX. It's not operating system, but it's basically you plug your phone into a monitor and it then shows more of a computer style interface powered off your phone. And if Google can just have basically their computer operating system built into the Android OS already, it makes it easier to do that. And you could potentially also just do more on the phone, and also a foldable or a tablet makes those a lot more computer-like, which would much more compete with what the iPad can now do. So it does make a lot of sense. And I think this is a good idea in the long run, but we've never gotten this much type of confirmation as Samir Samat literally saying, we're going to be combining Chrome OS and Android into a single platform. So, again, I don't think this is going to happen anytime soon, especially where he's asking this type of question around it. But this just means that, okay, this actually probably will happen in the next year or two, maybe. And I think that's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all right. All right. Well, move on to some general tech news. Looks like we got let me see, is this how you say it? The Qi. I'm a good host, right? I say things really good. I couldn't say participation earlier before we started recording. All right. Qi 2.2 is here.
Qi 2.2. You just said it wrong.
I did that on purpose. I did do that.
I hope you did that.
Isn't an anime.
I did it on purpose.
Now, normally I wouldn't talk about this. This is just a slight update to the Qi standard. The Wireless Power Consortium, I think is what it's called, has now come out with Qi 2.2. Basically, all it does is it ups the amount of, like, you can go from, it was 15 watt wireless charging capacity, like that's the highest you could charge. It's now up to 25 watt charging speeds, so it's a little bit faster. But the reason I want to talk about it is, like, since it's been announced, there are a ton of third-party charging companies, like people that make chargers or base charger, things like that. Like Anker is a good example of someone that makes different chargers. They've come out with a bunch of new Qi 2.2 chargers that phones can take advantage of. The problem is, it's the iPhone can take advantage of that, and that's pretty much it. Because, like, we've brought up a lot in this podcast, is no Android manufacturers are doing that, other than they're doing Qi 2 ready, meaning they sell a case that has the magnets in them if you want that, but that's it. It's not actually in the phone. So my question to you two, Wes and Caleb, is this what it's going to take for Android OEMs to actually utilize it, to have the faster, was it the charging speed? I don't think so. But is the faster charging speeds, is that something that might make these people actually want to do it in their phones?
No. But I do have hopes that this means that future iPhones will get a faster charging speed wirelessly.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Honestly, that's probably why this has been announced now, because the new iPhone is probably going to have 25 watt wireless charging built in.
Yep. Yeah, at this point, I feel like you either you have OEMs that are like, okay, yeah, we're doing our own wireless charging thing because we want to be able to do 50 watt wireless charging. I guess that's a thing some people want. I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to be able to cook an egg on the screen of my phone while it's charging. And then, I just think that a lot of OEMs see the full adoption of Qi 2 as admitting defeat, as admitting that Apple, A, did this thing that developed an ecosystem of accessories that's actually pretty dang useful and cool, and B, they made an open standard out of the thing so that everybody can use it and use all of the MagSafe compatible crap that has been churned out over the past, 5 years or whatever. I think that might hurt too much for them. So basically, Samsung, what I'm saying is you're cowards.
Yes.
That's it. I'm calling you out. You're cowards.
That's what it is.
You're scared. You're scared that Qi 2 is just too cool for you, and that's, maybe that'll work. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they announced it now also because hopefully Google's going to put this in their new Pix. I can't even say it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
that would be nice. But I mean, going along with this, I did see something that shows that Samsung might be doing this in their next Galaxy S lineup of phones, which won't come out until January, so we got a while. But they apparently have been putting out surveys in, let's see, it's called the Samsung Members app. Didn't know that was a thing. Probably shouldn't be a thing, but it is. They're putting out surveys asking people specifically about different charging things, how they use their USB-C port, how often they use their USB-C port. Do they charge wirelessly? I even think one of the questions specifically asks if they would like to have magnets on the phone. So, listener, if you happen to be a Samsung user and have this app, go answer these questions and try to answer them in a way that says, yes, give me MagSafe charging, you idiots. If there's a comment section, just put that in there specifically. So, yeah, it's interesting. So I do have some hope that Samsung might actually be putting this in their next flagship.
Yeah, in the comments, just say something along the lines of, I'm really jealous of all my friends who have iPhones, and I'm thinking of switching to an iPhone.
There you go. Specifically
That'll
for
work.
MagSafe. Yeah.
Yeah, if you get like 5 or 6 people, just 5 or 6 people that say that on this survey, 100% it will be in the next phone.
Yes.
That's how Samsung operates.
Go
Specifically with
do
Apple.
that.
Not necessarily anyone else, just Apple.
Gotcha.
Yes. Put that in, yes, definitely put that in the comments. That would be fantastic.
Fair. All right. The next little thing on general tech news is actually a discussion that we wanted to come up with, a discussion point. Brought to you by Caleb, because he's been working on something for this, and talking about photo management.
Yeah.
So, Caleb, go ahead.
We've talked a couple of times, listener, on the podcast, but also just the three of us just chatting about, like cloud photo services and what photo backup really means. Last week, it came to my attention that I knew somebody who has had basically all of their photos just deleted from Google Photos. Not really sure how it happened, what triggered it. But essentially she went to open the Google Photos app one day, and she'd been signed out of it due to her phone restarting or something like that. And she signed back in, and instead of, it having, showing her the photos that are on her phone and also all the photos that are in the cloud, it only showed the photos that were on her phone. Oh. And the rest of it was gone. Not sure if it had to do with something about the storage space that was left in her Google account or what, but it just kind of lit a fire under me to go forward on some sort of system that uses preferably open source tools and a relatively cheap methodology to safely back up photos. Because, of all the things that you don't want to lose, photos are pretty high up on the list, right?
Yeah,
you don't want to lose all your family photos or whatever, all these reminders of these significant, important moments in your life. So that's been on my mind. I've been deploying a classic 3-2-1 backup system, which, listener, in case you aren't aware, that means that all of your important data is backed up in 3 different places. There's 2 local backups that are duplicates of each other, right? In case you have a drive fail locally, and at least 1 backup of some sort is quote unquote offsite. So for a personal home consumer, that means not at your house, which is kind of hard because most people think to themselves that, yes, I'm using iCloud for photos. I'm using Google Photos. I'm using OneDrive or whatever. I've got all my stuff stored in Dropbox. Those are not backup services, listener. I hate to break it to you, right now, but those are not cloud backup services. What those are cloud sync services. It is a convenience thing that allows you to automatically be able to access files from any of the devices that you might want to access them from, right? It's extremely convenient, but it is not a reliable backup. For an example of that, company I used to work for, we used Adobe Creative Cloud to back up all of our files for manuals that we were writing for our products, which was very convenient, allowed multiple writers to use all of these assets and share them and everything like that. It was great. The convenience was great. And one morning, we all showed up to work, and it was empty. It was empty.
Yeah.
Somewhere, something got flipped, and Adobe Creative Cloud decided, oh, somebody deleted the entire repository on their computer or something, and Adobe just went, okay, it was all gone. Just deleted the whole thing. Wasn't even saved into like a trash because they had like a file size limit for the stuff that was going to be saved for 30 days in the deleted section. It was Adobe, so I'm not necessarily surprised that something stupid like that happened. But the reason that we didn't lose all of our stuff was because, thankfully, somebody was using an actual backup service, Time Machine, on a Mac, so that every hour, their hard drive on their Mac was backed up onto a separate hard drive. And so they were able to go back a few hours to the point where, like just before it was deleted, and grab that image that was stored on that external hard drive of the entire repository and stick it back into Creative Cloud so that everybody would have access to it again. So like cloud services are not backup services. And so I've been working, right, like on deploying this thing. This is, if I'm any good at the whole content creation thing, going to be the subject of a video on our tech YouTube channel at some point in the future. Don't quote me on that, Wes.
I'm just not quoting. I'm going to hold you to it.
No. Anyways, so that's the impetus for this discussion point, but it really got me thinking about the pictures that we take, because, and you know, at that point, this, you know, as an introduction to kind of the whole thing, I'll just throw it to you guys. What do you do with photos after you've taken them on your phone? By which I mean, not necessarily, are you backing them up or something like that? Whole, like, cloud services aside, just the photos that are stored locally on your phone, however you access them, whether that be via Google Photos or OneDrive or whatever. What do you do with them? Like, are you take the photo and does it just, it's in your pocket, you never look at it again? Do you go back to review them or look at them like with other family members later on? Is this a thing you're making photo books out of and printing them? Or how often do you look at them? How far back do you look when you do look at them? Stuff like that. Like, I'm curious.
Well, I guess I'll start. So I want to start with actually something that happened to me with photos, because since we're talking about it, and this was a while ago when I was living at my last house, and I was trying to. Speaking of having two local drives that you need, okay, Caleb made a point of this. I only had one at the time. Silly me was trying to reinstall Windows to my new computer, right? Silly me had that hard drive plugged in, and silly me was not paying attention to what drive I was wiping and installing for Windows.
Oh no. This is not a good story.
Yep. So I'm sitting here, and it's just an old. At the time, it was a 2 terabyte, just an old spin drive, and this installed to Windows. I'm sitting there like, this is taking forever. I swear I have a new SSD in here. What is going on? Why is it doing this? And I'm sitting there looking, and all of a sudden I look over, and the light on the hard drive's going blink, 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 and I was like, just,
oh no.
So, and that at the time I only had one drive backup. Luckily, OneDrive came through and I had already had stuff up in the cloud, and I was able to bring some photos back. So in reverse of that, I was able to.
Yeah.
But yes.
Oh man.
Made me think for that second drive. So what do I do recently? I currently, for photos, I currently have set up OneDrive on everyone's device. So like when my kids take photos, it'll automatically just upload because their phones they use don't have a lot of space anyway. So it's easier for me to just, here, wipe everything. Everything's already uploaded. We double check everything and then it goes up. So that's been nice for them. And then later I'll look through and I try to save certain photos. I'll bring it back down from the cloud. That's kind of how I do it. Now, looking at them, every birthday, if we have a party or something at the house, I'll bring up photos for the past year. OneDrive is actually on the Xbox, which I have an Xbox on the TV, and I can open that for what pictures they've taken, things like that, and then it'll just do a slideshow for the year for them.
Okay.
And so that's kind of a nice little thing that we've benefited with. And so then whenever we want any pictures for frames or something, we usually actually send it to like Walmart, the digital, they'll print it out and they'll put it in frame. And that's usually what we do. We tried doing the digital, actually, I think one's over here, those digital frames you put a USB in.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And they always fail. After a minute, they just like after like a day or two of them running, they just all of a sudden it's just a screen goes haywire.
Yeah, they're not exactly super high end equipment.
And so then that's when I was like, oh, whenever it's like a birthday for the kid, I'll throw up the OneDrive thing. It goes through. But yeah, that's kind of what I do for photos and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. What about you, Landon?
So, like, in terms of, I'm going to start with the backing up part of things, even though that's not what you asked, but I'm going to start there. I do use Google Photos. I've used it since it was started, basically. I've got pictures from, like, back in high school, I've got backed up onto Google Photos. Mm-hmm. So I've got, and the thing I love about Google Photos is that quick access to thousands and thousands of photos and videos and whatnot from over the years. I do now pay for Google One, whatever, I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, I think that's what it's
just their 200 gig, like the lowest plan. It's like $2 a month, something stupid like that. Because, I uploaded a whole bunch of stuff before when it was still free. And then since then I've used the 15 gigs of free storage that they give me. And like the one thing I absolutely love about using Google Photos, and this is going back to your question of like, what do I do with these photos once they're there? Mm-hmm. Like my youngest child, she likes to, when we're putting her to bed, she likes to look at photos. And Google Photos, and I think Apple does this as well, but I actually prefer the way Google does it, has basic, for lack of a better term, they have stories like Instagram stories or those type of things up at the top, and it just goes over. Sometimes it's past years of around the time you're looking at now. Sometimes it's of different people, just grouped together, and we'll go like she loves to just go through those, and we'll just it basically puts together slideshows of different people, events, activities, things related to one another in different ways. And it's like, if I go through all the ones they put together, it's about 5 to 10 minutes worth of photos to look at. And I love having that available because there's photos that I haven't looked at in a long time, or even like didn't remember taking that photo or that video, that just happens to pop up, and it's great. And like my daughter also loves, if it's younger pictures of her older siblings, she's like, that's this person. That's she likes pointing out who is who, even though it's an older picture of him. And if it's her, she's like, oh, that's me. And she loves that. So like, I love doing that. I love having that option of being able to just have random photos pop up for me. Like one thing like I haven't gotten rid of Facebook, partially because of a similar thing they do. Like I can go every day and look at Facebook memories, and it shows what I posted that day in the past.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's nothing that's worth looking at, but sometimes there are photos and things like that that's like, oh yeah, that did happen that day. And this is kind of that same idea, just in photos and stuff, which I actually like better. But I love having that, and it changes like every day. It'll bring up like between 5 and 10 different slideshows. Sometimes it shows the same images because, again, sometimes it just goes back this day or this month 4 years ago you were doing this, and it shows a lot of those same images throughout the month, but that's fine. But it changes all throughout the year.
Yeah.
And I love that. So that's why I really like having Google Photos. And again, because I have access to years and years and years worth of photos, it's great. Now going back to the backing up style, like part of things, like I said, I do have Google Photos, and I have it so it automatically syncs with Google Photos. So anytime I take a picture and then when it's like and back connected to Wi-Fi, it automatically does that. And then every few months, well, okay, I would like it to be every few months, but every once, basically when my phone is running out of storage and I need to free up space, I will take my phone to my computer, and any photo that is, I don't delete photos off my phone very often unless it's something I took this picture for work and now I don't need it anymore, delete it. So, I don't delete photos very often, but I'll go through on my phone and manually back them up to it. I've got a 6 terabyte external hard drive that I have a lot of stuff on. I will manually back everything up off of the phone, and then I will make sure I've backed it up, make sure it's also backed up to Google Photos, and then delete it off my phone. That's currently the only backup that I do have. I do need to have a second one, I believe. That would be a good thing. And I also want to get a solid state drive to back things up to, because this is just a traditional spinning hard drive, because I needed a lot of space and it was cheaper than buying a 6 terabyte SSD.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But now that SSDs are cheaper, it'd probably be a good idea to even get like a 2 terabyte one and back it up to that as well. But that's currently what I'm doing backup wise, is just onto, when my phone gets full, I will take probably a year's worth of photos and offload them into different folders on my hard drive.
Okay. See, this is all absolutely fascinating, okay? Because the issue that I'm running into here is not that there aren't options, it's just that none of them are good, right?
Right.
So one of the reasons that kind of kicked this whole thing off is that I, like you, Landon, and I assume Wes, though I think you're probably paying for quite a bit more storage than I am. I'm paying for Apple. I'm paying Apple a monthly subscription. I'm not paying it for the storage, right? I pay it for services that I use otherwise, but it comes with 200 gigs of iCloud storage, which we have been using to store our pictures in iCloud. We are flirting with running out of space there. So it's like, all right, iCloud isn't actually a backup anyways, so we should implement an actual backup scheme, which would allow us to then delete photos out of iCloud. Okay, makes sense. Here's the problem, though. If you delete the photos out of iCloud, you lose all of the convenience of being able to access them anywhere, right? And being able to access them anywhere, you lose those little compiled slideshows and stuff like that, which Apple does do also. And they are, I agree, very nice to have. They do get me to review and look at photos that I just would not look at otherwise, So, because, like what we're looking at now is using iCloud essentially to sync photos to a Mac, because that's easy, right? You just sign in on both devices and they all show up there. Then from the Photos app on the Mac, you can export the full original quality photos, and I can just export them directly from there onto an external 4 terabyte hard drive. And then I can back up just, the 4 terabyte hard drive is used for lots of things, but I want to have photos on that, and then I can back them up to a separate 500 gig drive, which is way more than we currently have photos. So currently, right?
Mhm.
So that's good for now, 500 gig drive, and then have 2 500 gig drives and swap them places with a location that is not my house. And that's 3 different drives, 2 of them on site backing up to each other constantly, one of which lives off site and gets a semi-regular backup of the same data as is on those other 2 drives. That's a great backup solution. And it means that if you want to look at any of those photos, you have to go sign into that Mac that
Yeah.
drive is plugged into,
Mhm.
which that sucks, right? Like we've gotten long gone are the days of, oh yes, I have a scrapbook here and this is where all of my photos live. And if I want to look at pictures of a vacation I took when I was 12, I have to go to my scrapbook. Nope. That is not how life is anymore. And we've gotten so used to not having to deal with that. And so like, we're like looking at the way we use our pictures and stuff like that. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, most of the time, if I'm going to look back at photos on my phone or something like that, I can get by, like, generally speaking, it's when I'm at home, right? On my local Wi-Fi network. And there are a number of different open solutions that you can use to take the contents of the photos on a hard drive and expose them to any device on your local network via an app or applet-like interface. And that's kind of nice, right? I'm like, okay, that would probably work for me, you know? But that's only local. That's only at home, right? And if you can set them up to expose it onto the wider internet, but the setup process for that is A, a lot harder, and B, probably requires you to actually have an exception or like some kind of special use agreement with your ISP, which I believe I can get with my ISP, but it would cost a little bit of extra on top of my internet bill every month. So it's, we're trying to figure out like, what is the, like, how do you solve this problem? How do I get it so that I can make all of these photos available to me and still be able to like actually look at photos when I'm not at my house? And then, if I delete all of my photos out of iCloud in order to save space on iCloud, I'm going to lose all of that functionality that the Photos app gives me, where it's compiling all of this stuff. To be fair, you can get that to a certain extent by setting up a separate Photos library on a Mac and then letting the Photos app on the Mac do all of that stuff. And then you can export those little memory like live clips as just like a video and stuff like that. So like there's ways to work around that as well. But I have yet to find a good solution that is going to like give me the ability to look at photos at my house, store them locally on my phone so that if I leave the house, I still have them with me, and also give me some of like the AI like generated video clip memory things that Apple does. There's just a lot of nuance to it.
Yeah.
And like
I was going to say, I don't know. Well, I mean, you were saying that, and the only thing I could pop into my mind is your own server, like how Plex servers work, but I don't, that doesn't give you that nuance that you're talking about.
Plex does do this, but Plex currently sucks. I'm actually ditching Plex right now, like actively. Basically, if you're not paying for Plex, you cannot do half the things you used to be able to do.
Gotcha.
I've never used it, so. You can't download local files anymore. So that's one of the reasons that I'm ditching Plex. You used to be able to do photos in addition to videos. Just share a photos library directly from your computer. It would show up in Plex. And you could view it. They split that off into a separate app when they started charging for stuff. And from the reviews, that app sucks, like real bad. Everybody hates it. So yeah, I did look at Plex. Don't think I'm going to use that. There's some popular options like Image and Photo Prism. I've looked at both of those. Image, I like, but I had issues getting it set up because I'm trying to run it off of files that are stored on an external hard drive, right? Not the internal drive of my Mac, because that would only give me like 120 gigs of storage to work with, which is less than I have in iCloud. So obviously that's not a solution. So yeah, I couldn't get it to work that way, right? There's there's issues specifically with Macs. Running image off of an external drive on a Mac, that has problems. Windows and Linux, totally fine. So cool. Love that. Photo Prism, on the other hand, totally worked. Setup was very easy. And it does work in terms of me being able to just, as long as I'm on my local Wi-Fi network, I can view all the photos. But it's like, then what do I do with that? It's also gotten me thinking too, do I take too many photos? which I'm sure my wife would disagree with, because she takes like quadruple the number of photos that I do of just stuff. But I'm like looking back on my own childhood, and everyone's all like, oh man, you got to take photos. Your kids are going to love looking at them when they're older and stuff like that. And I'm like, I do love looking at the photos from when I was a kid. There's like 100 of them total. Mm-hmm. And they feel special because there's so few of them. I feel like kids today are going to be like, but does it matter? There's literally like 40 million pictures of me when I was a toddler. So, like, it's interesting to me. Like, should I be going back instead of deleting photos like out of iCloud wholesale, just be going through and picking like the choice photos, the ones that I'm all like, this is the one that really captures what needs to be remembered, and then deleting everything else, you know? Like, do we need to rethink how we keep photos at all?
See, I actually do that while I'm taking the photo. Like, usually I'll take 5 or 6 photos, like especially group photos, I'll take a bunch just so I can hopefully get a good one. And then I'll go through them later on and during either the next day or, next week or something like that. Be like, okay, this one is worth keeping. This one, oh no, their eyes are closed. I'll delete that one, and I'll keep the best one or two. And so I actually do that. I just have to do it basically within a week of it taking place, or I don't do that.
Or it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay, that's valid.
I still do have a lot of photos, but I don't have a lot of duplicates. And the other thing I really do like about Google Photos, and Apple does this as well, is they can go through and be like, hey, you've got a lot of pictures that are basically the same. Do you want to go through these and delete some? And it will either do it for you, or it'll just remind you, hey, by the way, you could clear up like 3 gigs of storage just by deleting these duplicates. Do you want to do that? Oh, thank you for telling me that. I will go and look through those right now. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest issue for me is that most of the storage that is taken up it's videos, right? It's mostly videos.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. That's the one thing that I feel like kind of gets lost in like old home movies, is the lack of recording quality, right? Like camcorders back in the day, they just sucked. And now I have a phone that captures 4K 60 in my pocket at all times. Actually, it'll do 4K like 120, I think, because it's a Pro.
Pro Max.
Which I do not do. To be clear, I capture 4K 30 most of the time, because anything more than that is overkill. And that does reduce the file size by quite a bit. But no, I'm capturing 4K video because I want to be able to blow it up at some point in the future and just be like, yeah, look at this. Like, you can totally see what's actually happening in this video. And those take up so much gosh darn space.
Yeah,
true.
And that's my problem. That's my problem as well, because like I do set the settings at a higher rate because I want the quality video.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. Yeah. They do take up a lot more storage.
That's I don't know. It's rough. And like you can't really kill that, like get that space back without deleting it or losing a bunch of quality, So yeah, it's an interesting discussion point. It has made me think about like our relationship with picture taking and picture storage in this day and age, which is quite different than it was when I was a child.
True.
And I feel like I'm wrestling with things that my parents just haven't had to wrestle with, especially since, all their pictures were physical. They kind of just had to make their peace with, well, if the house burns down, oh well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now it's like, actually, I can do something about that. It's within my power. Well, and I guess my parents did kind of feel that, because at some point they started backing up all of their pictures onto CDs. And then about 5 years ago, we had to sit them down and have the conversation of, so it turns out all of those CDs that were supposed to last forever takes them about 25 years to degrade beyond readability.
Yep.
So, like, your pictures are fine, but sometime in the next 10 years, you're going to want to back them up to something else.
Yeah, and listener,
So-
if you do happen to have a lot of photo CDs like that, there are countless number of places if you don't happen to have a CD drive anymore, because it's hard to find a
Yes.
computer. I am in this predicament right now. I don't have a computer that functions properly with a CD drive. So I've got music and videos and photos that are on CDs that I want to back up, but you can take them to places and they will do them. Some places will charge you, but it's very minimal fee. Or
Yeah.
you can probably find someone that might have a disk drive of some sort that you can use to back them up to your computer with. But I would recommend doing that sometime soon if
Yeah.
you can.
I keep meaning to check whether or not I've actually got an external drive that I could plug into a USB adapter for you. He asked us about this ages ago, and I was all like, the only CD drives I have are all attached to computers, but maybe I can get one of the internal drives to work externally. I just haven't
what?
checked.
I wonder, I still have my Xbox 360's HD DVD drive. I wonder if you just plug that in. It can read it, I'd assume.
Worst case scenario, I have an actual filing cabinet full of laptops with disk drives on it over here.
Last case, that works.
Well,
I could loan one of those to you.
I do have 2 old laptops with disk drives. It's just that one of them's Windows. It's not going to be. No. The other one is my very first MacBook, which is from 2006, and it would probably turn on, but I don't know how well.
Most of the laptops that I have are driveless, which means you would not be able to boot them. But if you had if you got yourself like a 1 terabyte thumb drive, we could install Linux on that thumb drive. You could plug it into the laptop and boot to Linux, and then just copy disks onto the thumb drive from the disk drive. That would work, but I don't know. I don't think that the laptop hardware being old would be the thing that would slow you down. I think the thing that would slow you down would be CDs. Like, they're just kind of slow in terms of data transfer speed. So, yeah, anyways, it's a very interesting, you start talking about data backup and stuff like that, you get down really interesting, weird rabbit holes, and I'm at the bottom of one right now, listener. I'm hoping to climb my way back out and document it in a helpful and informative YouTube video that may or may not exist sometime in the next 6 months. We'll see.
Fair. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into some gaming news. Let's talk about the Commodore 64 Ultimate.
Yeah. So speaking of tech news that makes me feel optimistic about the future, there's not much, listener, but this one is this is it. So you might remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how there was a guy that was trying to buy the rights to Commodore. They have tentatively succeeded in that aim, essentially purchasing the trademarks for the Commodore brand, which is essentially the same as buying Commodore, because Commodore itself is not a company right now, right? It's not a functional company that does anything. It is just a collection of trademarks and brand identity that people owned, and they've managed to buy that, which means they own Commodore for all intents and purposes. And they've turned around and launched, basically right off the back of that, the Commodore 64 Ultimate. To be clear, this is the ultimate version of the Commodore 64. So it's still a computer from the 80s, right? Like, it's just to set your expectations.
Yes.
But I've been sitting here on their website, commodore.net, for pretty much the entire podcast, watching a spinning graphic of this thing, a rendering of this thing. They have it available in the classic beige Commodore style, but also the retro futuristic stylings of clear plastic and colored LEDs. That's also an option. And they look so cool. I've got to say, I love it aesthetically. It's great. So what this thing is an FPGA powered recreation of the original Commodore 64's motherboard, right? So if you don't know what an FPGA is, listener, that's okay. Neither do I, really, right? Like it's complicated computer speak for essentially it's a silicon microprocessor that is designed to mimic hardware that it is not, right? Like essentially with FPGA code, you are coding firmware onto the chip that changes the shape of the hardware of the chip as far as the software running on the chip is concerned. If that makes sense, right? The software looks at the chip and it goes, oh, that's a classic Commodore 64 processor, whereas the chip itself is just an FPGA that's been cleverly modified with firmware to present like that, but it is not actually. The advantage being FPGAs are you can get them, right? Like you can't go back and re-architect and manufacture the original processor for a Commodore 64. That's not how that works. But FPGAs basically give you the ability to do that via firmware coding on the chip itself. As far as I understand it, right? If I'm wrong, Don't tell me. I don't want to know. I'm just an average consumer here. I'm not a developer. It doesn't actually matter. The point is, this thing looks and acts just like an original Commodore with some upgrades. It has more RAM and 48 megahertz turbo boost, which, okay, look, megahertz mattered back then, listener. It was important. 48 megahertz in the 80s, that was honestly probably like double the clock speed of the chips in the original Commodore 64. I'm not sure, but it's a boost. You gotta love that. And it has an SID sound chip in it, which is like classic, but they've tied it to the LED lights in the thing, so that the colors of the LEDs will change in time, like reactively to the sound chip on the device, meaning that you will get color changing regardless of whether or not you've got like speakers plugged into the thing. So that's kind of nice. And then they've added Wi-Fi and USB ports and an HDMI port and stuff like that. You can use Wi-Fi and USB to transfer quote unquote cassettes to the thing with games on them and stuff like that. Because to be clear, listener, when the Commodore 64 launched, that's how you stored game data, was on cassettes. Yep. Not discs. I'm not even talking about floppy disks, listener. Actual pants cassette tapes. Okay? They were not the same as the cassette tapes that stored music, but they were very similar. Same technology, magnetic storage, a whole deal. But yeah, it's not an emulator, right? This is actual hardware. I mean, it sort of is an emulator, but it's hardware level emulation, not software level emulation. So it's going to be more accurate. And it's not a modern PC in a Commodore 64 case, though actually there is a dude who kickstarted that exact product a few years ago, and they've evidently partnered with him and are selling his computers on their website. So if you want one of those, you can get that too. Yeah. But yeah, this thing, the Commodore 64 Ultimate, it's the ultimate modern, fully supported and repairable and functional version of the Commodore 64. If you want to play 10,000 plus original retro games and use classic Commodore peripherals and cartridges and stuff like that, because it does have all the same ports as the original Commodore 64, but they have added like an HDMI port so that you can plug it into a modern monitor instead of having to hook it up via S-video to a cathode ray tube, whatever nonsense. Like, yeah, no, you can, this thing looks pretty cool. And I will say that I'm just going to read the ad copy for this like new version of Commodore that they've got on their website, listener, because this was the thing that I tried to explain a few weeks ago. I wasn't doing a very good job of it. but this is their mission statement, essentially, that Commodore has returned from a parallel timeline where tech stayed optimistic, inviting, and human, where it served us, not enslaved us. We're here to bring that feeling back, retrofuturism, transparent tech, digital detox, and innovation. And I like the ethos. I like what they're going for here. We'll see if they manage to go anywhere beyond releasing a really cool classic Commodore thing. But if you're interested in that really cool classic Commodore thing, the beige version actually starts at $300, which is frankly not that bad. So yeah, there you go. Commodore 64 Ultimate. I love it. I'm really excited to see what they come up with next. I'm hoping for like a retro 80s themed like custom skin on, I don't know, some variant of Linux that is just like, here's what we think the Commodore OS would look like if Commodore had continued to exist that whole time. And I want to see that computer. That's what I want next. So
they have talked about doing that exact thing.
He has mentioned that that's a concept they want to go for, that they're exploring. And I'm like, I want to see what this looks like, because I'm sitting over here. I did not ever use a Commodore 64. Commodore 64 kind of fell out of popularity before, well, around the time I was born, right? So like I missed that one. But the Commodore 64 did overlap with the Atari ST, and we had an old Atari ST in the family home when I was a kid. And that was the first machine that I played games on, right? Everyone else was playing NES games. I was on an Atari ST. So I've been a PC gamer since I was like 4, listener, is essentially what I'm saying. And so I would love to see a classic like reimagining of what the Atari little green desktop would look like as a modern OS. I doubt we're going to get that. I don't think that the ST has anywhere near the nostalgia for it that the Commodore 64 does, but I would love to see just sort of that aesthetic applied to modern computing. Yeah, I think it's cool.
That is cool. I think it's cool. You know what's not cool? Our next topic.
Nice segue. That's
You
great.
like that? Well, the next topic, listener, you probably didn't know this because not a lot of people used it, but those of us that did use it, Microsoft Store stopped selling movies and TV shows. So they quietly did this, they stopped selling movies and TV on Microsoft Store for Windows PCs and Xbox consoles. To be fair, I mean, I kind of saw this coming. I didn't realize it would last as long. It's kind of a reason why I stopped buying movies and TV on Xbox, just because, I mean, first they had their Groove music, was Zune to Groove, and then they canceled that in 2017. And then their ebooks, they stopped selling on the Microsoft Store in 2019. Movies and TV, I was kind of like, they cut the one thing that got me, I was like, oh, they stopped promoting movies and TV on rewards. Like it used to be able to buy, like, they'd give you a certain amount of points for buying in the movies and TV. I can't remember off the top. It's like you buy 3 a month and you get like something. And so I would do that. That's where I'd be like, oh, look, a movie for $1 to $2. Sweet. That's a purchase. Sweet. Boom. And, so I've got a decent selection of this, but what kind of sucked though, and this might be part of the demise on top of that, was they never had an app or anything outside of the Windows PC or the Xbox.
Yeah.
So I could never access this like on my phone or anywhere else. But then Movies Anywhere came out, and I was able to sync that with all my other accounts that are able to sync, which then would do most of them, not all, because not all movie studios partnered with this.
Yes.
But I was able to do that. And to be fair, I mean, when kids are watching the movies that I've purchased, it's usually on their Google phones, which then we would just use Google TV or Movies or an Xfinity box or something. So, to be fair. So, I think that was a big part of the demise, but this did last a lot longer. They did send out a message the day of just saying, hey, it's just no longer, you just can't, no more movies, TV, done. So they did say that you will still be able to access your previously purchased content in the Movies and TV app on Windows PCs and Xbox consoles. Downloads will also remain available on Windows, including in HD max resolutions. So you can still access it with just those, but I would suggest highly maybe get that Movies Anywhere service and
Yes.
at least get the ones that are studios that have allowed this service to be a part of this service to move them to another location.
Yeah.
I believe Apple, if you're there, Apple has a thing you can sign up for. Google has a thing you can sign up for to link it so they can just pretty much show it. If you have an Xfinity account, you can do that. DirecTV is a part of it. So if you have movies through those services, Vudu,
Amazon,
Amazon Prime, Fandango at home, they're all linked to this.
Disney also links with it as well.
Yes.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. I'm just sitting here right now scrolling through all of the movies and TV stuff that I'm not going to be able to access when they finally shut down the service entirely. It is, of course, all stuff that was synced over via Movies Anywhere, so it's not like I'm actually losing anything.
Yeah.
I've got it on like iCloud or iTunes and Google and everything, but interesting.
Yep.
Also, I'm just realizing that like 90% of these are Disney franchises now.
Yeah,
because they bought Fox, so that was like all of the X-Men stuff that I had. And
yep. But yeah, so kind of it sucks, but because one, when I did buy digital, I still got rewards points for it. So this is how it went. When I would buy it, I would make sure to buy it on Microsoft so I get the rewards points, but then it's linked to Movies Anywhere to play on Google or Xfinity. So
you can actually watch the movies you bought somewhere?
Yeah, so then I would watch the movies on those devices. So I mean, I get it. No one was using it. I mean, I wasn't using it there were times I would just hop on. Like I do have the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit all extended editions on that. That's just a thing. I was like, sweet, I'm going to totally buy those. Easy access to buy them. So I have those on there. But then sometimes it would say I bought the 4K on Microsoft, but it would only show that I had the HD versions on the others. So that was one thing I'd go back to on the Xbox, but then.
Yep. That was down to some kind of limitation with the agreements that Movies Anywhere had with the production studios.
Yeah.
Where like for the longest time, Disney movies, they would only sync the HD version. They wouldn't do the 4K version. Though I think they did eventually change course on that. So I think those should all be 4K now, but.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. But yeah, listener, you may not have known or even known about this or care, but that did happen for those of us that were using this.
Yep.
So.
Yep. It's yet another step in the long and extremely unfortunate road of tech companies reminding us that no, actually, you haven't been buying products. You've been buying licenses to use products, and we reserve the right to revoke your access to them at pretty much any time. So, physical media for the win. I guess.
Yeah.
Go buy a Blu-ray player, listener. Good luck finding one.
I did mention HD DVD earlier, I guess, get your...
Sorry, you lost that war a long time ago, Wes.
Yep. No, it's funny. Anywho, that's the end of that, really, for our gaming segment. Looks like we're at the end of the episode, listener, unless, Landon, you got one more thing for us? Yahoo!
There it is.
There it is. Yeah, there it is.
This past week I actually thought about changing that one more thing. I thought about I could make a compilation of Steve Jobs saying one more thing, a bunch, and have something cool. But I was like, no, that's still not. It's not going to beat Wes singing the Yahoo song from the 90s. So I have to. I
True.
didn't do it. I'm not going to do it. I have to keep it. It's just that it is what it is.
It is. I agree.
But I do have one more thing. And I put this here because this is only for a very, very, very small audience. Even in the tech enthusiast audience, it's a small part of that as well. So 5 people out there might be interested in this, and they might not even listen to this podcast, but it's there. I'm going to put it out there for them. OnePlus, they are one of the OEMs that I would be shocked if they ever put any sort of Qi 2 standard in their phones, because they typically they have 65 watt charging on their wired charging on their phones, maybe even faster, and then 65 watt wireless charging on their phone. Like, that's one thing OnePlus does really well, is charging and battery technology on their phones is really good, and their watches as well. But they have come out with one of the most interesting charging cables that I've seen from anyone. And what it's a 2-in-1 charging cable. And the way it works, it's USB. From the picture, it looks like USB-A, but it's got to be USB-C on both ends. It's got to be USB-C to the charging brick. It just looks, this picture makes it look bigger than it probably is. But it's USB-C to the phone, like a normal charging cable, that's fine. But in the middle of this charging cable, it has a little puck for you to also charge your OnePlus watch. And so you can charge your watch and your phone with the same cable. And I find that really interesting.
Okay.
And
that's
now the watch will charge at 10 watts, which is not super fast, but it's a small battery. It's going to be fine. While simultaneously charging your phone at speeds of up to 67 watts, as long as you have a compatible brick. So basically, if you already have a OnePlus charging brick, then if you have a OnePlus phone, a OnePlus watch, and the OnePlus charging brick, you can add this cable for only $30, which is really not bad. And then you can charge both of these devices with one cable, one brick, and they'll both be charging pretty quickly. Now, it does also say if you just charge the phone with this cable, you can get 80 watts of charging, which is ridiculous. But yeah, 10 watts to the watch, 67 watts to the phone at the same time. I think of this as like the best travel charging pack. Like if you don't want to take multiple charging cables or device or bricks or things like that, you want to combine those, basically have a little more compact setup. This is perfect for that. And I mean, you could also just use it at home as well.
I got to say, I appreciate you bringing this up just so that I could be reminded that OnePlus calls their fancy charging stuff Super VOOC.
Yeah.
I had forgotten that was the case, and I love it. I'm happy.
Yes, that is true. Super VOOC is their charging name, because for some reason, it's interesting that some of the things that companies give names to, OnePlus, I think, is the only one that gives a name to its charging standard.
I think that's true.
And I mean, there's the parent company of OnePlus. I can't remember who it is. They also use the name Super VOOC, but it's all in the same company.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting name.
That's not Xiaomi, is it?
I don't think so. I really can't remember who it is. I don't think it's Xiaomi, but it... I don't remember.
I can't remember now. Yeah. I don't... Whoever it is, you can't buy any of their phones in the US anyways, so whatever.
Yeah, that's why you buy the OnePlus version, because it's basically the same thing, but available in the US. Yeah, that's my one more thing for this week.
Nice. Well, actually, something I want to mention, I just quickly saw that we like to always try to make people aware of. Microsoft just issues alert for critical SharePoint server attacks.
Oh.
So
Great.
I'm reading this. I'm going to read this on the article here. It's from Newsweek here. And it was written about 2 hours ago. It says Microsoft has issued an urgent security alert warning of active attacks targeting SharePoint servers used by government agencies and businesses worldwide. It says, why does this matter? The zero-day attack represents a significant cyber security threat to organizations relying on SharePoint or internal documents management and collaboration. And it says the vulnerability affects only on-premise SharePoint servers used with organizations, not Microsoft cloud-based SharePoint online services. Kind of a quick little thing. So we might be hearing more about this later.
Yeah, I was going to say, listener, this probably isn't going to apply to your like day-to-day life unless you work in IT, I guess.
I was going to say there's a lot of people in IT, so
well, yeah, it's true. But if you aren't in IT, this may still affect you because like you may not be able to do part of your job tomorrow because SharePoint's going to be down or something like that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah, that just came out. So,
You know, Wes, the one more thing segment is supposed to be uplifting.
I know. True. But I was like, hey, this just happened. Maybe we get it real fast. I just saw it. So I was like, wait, another hack? Jeez. All right. Well,
Freaking Microsoft.
We'll go. Hey, we try to bring these things up, okay?
I know.
All right. Well, listener, we appreciate you listening. If you want to get a hold of us or want us to talk about something or make fun of Caleb for not putting anything on the YouTube channel, you can at all of our social media platforms, as well as callingallplatforms.com. The YouTube channel that I was just mentioning and making fun of Caleb for not uploading anything, but promises there might be an upload later about some video. We'll see.
I would not call what I said a promise. I was quite deliberate to not
Here,
promise
we'll put
anything.
quotations on the promise on there. At Calling All Platforms tech on there as well. All right, listener. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.